Hi guys, so today I'm going to teach you how to make a clay vase using the coil construction technique. The materials that you need will be a chunk of clay. You will also need a wedging board that's covered with canvas material, a rolling pin, a working board that's covered with newspaper, and a cup of water. You will also need a template for the bottom of your vase. So if we look at this example here, this template is for the bottom. It can be any shape that you wish. It could be a square, a circle, an oval, star, whichever one you wish. And this is just a flat piece of clay that we're going to cut out and then use that to build all of our walls on top of. So your template should be the exact size that you want the bottom of your vase to be. The first thing we need to do is wedge our clay. Wedging is basically kneading the clay, and there's two reasons why we do this. Number one, we want to get out as many air bubbles as possible. And number two, we are also trying to get out some of the moisture of the clay. So the first thing you need to do is hit your hand against the clay. And I'm just making kind of a sphere shape with this. And then you're going to place it on your canvas wedging board, all right? Next, I'm going to take the palm of my hand and I am going to push this into the clay. So push it into the clay and then you're going to fold it over. Turn it, push it into the clay, fold it, turn it over. And you want to do this about 8 to 10 times. All right, I've wedged it. Now I am going to push it back into my sphere shape, getting out any extra bubbles. And then you're going to place it onto your wedging board. I now like to flatten it with my hand a little bit so that it's easier to roll out. And make sure you're flipping your clay over every once in a while. All right, now you're going to take your rolling pin and you are going to use this to roll out a nice even slab of clay. You are looking for about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch thickness, and you want it to be even in thickness. So one section shouldn't be super skinny while the other section is really flat. And I like to turn my clay over, do it one more time. Looks good to me. Next, you're going to take your template and place it right on your slab. And I like to use a pen tool for this. So it's just this metal tool with a sharp pen at the end of it. And I'm going to hold it straight up and just use this to carefully trace around your template. All right, now your extra clay can be set aside for later. We'll use that to make our coils. Now we don't need our template anymore, so you can toss that. Our base will now go on our working board, which is the newspaper covered board. This is where you're going to be building all of your walls and what you'll be using for the rest of class. So your wedging boards can go back onto the clay cart. All right, so we have our base here. We need our cup of water that I talked about earlier, and then we also need a sharp tool. You can use a pen tool for this. You can use a toothpick or a knife, which are also on the clay cart for this. And then we need our extra clay. So the first thing you need to do to start to build up our walls is to create a coil. So just grab a chunk of clay, and you are going to either roll it in between your hands, or you can do the same thing on the table. And you want it to be a pretty even coil, about medium thickness. We want it to be sturdy. So here's my coil. Next, we need to do something called slipping and scoring. Anytime that you are adding clay to another piece of clay, you have to slip and score. So scoring is basically just roughing up the surface of the clay a little bit. So on the bottom of my coil, I'm going to make some little X's to roughen up the surface. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then where I am going to attach it, I am also going to rough up my surface by doing little X's and crosses. Now to slip, we are going to be using some water. This just helps adhere the pieces together. It kind of works like our glue. So just dip your finger in some water, put it right over where you had scored on both pieces, and then turn it over and press it down. If you have any extra like this, just use a pen tool and you can trim the ends. All right, so we have our first coil. Next, we just need to continue building it up. So you're going to grab another chunk of clay and create a coil. And it's going to be the same exact process of creating a coil an even thickness. You will want to slip and score wherever you are attaching. So this one looks pretty good. I am going to score the bottom of it. I'm also going to score where I plan on attaching it. Slipping by adding water. And then placing it on top. Pressing it down. And then you will just continue building up from there. Now, every few rows, I like to stop and smooth out my walls, both on the outside and on the inside. For that, I like to use a few different tools. I like to use one of these wooden tools that has the rounded edge, and then I also like to use one of the ribs. There's a metal one, and there are also a wooden one as well. Okay, so the first thing I like to do is to hold my wall on the inside with my fingers just to make sure it's nice and sturdy. And you are going to use the rounded part of the wooden tool, and you're basically just smashing the coils together. We're filling in the gaps that were made, and we're starting to make a nice smooth surface. So for this one, it's going to look a little rough, but we see that our holes are starting to get filled in. And then what you can do is take your rib tool and use that to really smooth out your surface and make sure it's nice and clean. Okay? Now you'll want to do the same thing on the inside of your vase as well. Same process. You'll want to smash the clay together first, and then smooth it out, and so on and so forth. Now, another trick for making this nice and smooth is to use a sponge, which you will also have in your tub of clay tools. Just dip it in some water and get as much of the water out as possible. We just want it to be damp. And then you can actually use your sponge to finish really smoothing out the surface of your clay. All right, there we go. I'm now going to show you guys how to add details. Okay, so there's two ways that you can add details. By either adding 3D details that are going to pop off of the surface of your clay, and you can also just simply carve into the clay. So carving is really simple. Just use whatever tools that you think will work best for your design, and you're simply going to just add them in with your tools. So the pen tool is really nice for details, but you can also use a tool with one of the hooks at the end to grab chunks of clay if you would like to carve out more. It's completely up to you. Next, I'm going to show you guys how to add 3D elements. So let's say you wanted to add a diamond shape to the side of your vase, okay? First thing you're going to do is make that diamond shape. So take some extra clay, and I'm simply going to cut out my shape out of a flat piece of clay, but you can really make this as elaborate as you want. If you wanted to make flower petals and have them curving off of your vase, it's really the same method. This is just a simple example. So here I have my diamond shape. Now whenever you are adding any details to your vase, you have to slip and score. So I am going to score the back carefully, and then wherever I want to add this to my vase, I am going to score, add water for our slip on both pieces, and then you are going to press it down to attach. If you skip the scoring and the slipping, these pieces will definitely fall off. So you want to make sure that you are scoring and slipping every piece you attach. Another thing I like to do is go along my edges and really smooth out where they are meeting your clay. This just makes sure that they are definitely stuck onto your vase and they aren't going anywhere. And it also gives you really nice, clean edges as well. All right, the last thing I'm going to show you is how you need to clean up your clay project. If we were to just let this sit out, it would dry out and you wouldn't be able to work on it the next day. All right, so what you need is you're just going to keep your clay project on your working board. You need a spray bottle of water. You need a paper towel, and we are just going to place this right on top of our clay project. And you will also need a plastic bag with a piece of tape and a permanent marker to write your name on the tape. All right, so all you're going to do is you're going to spray your clay project with the water. Make sure it's nice and covered. You do not need to do this underneath, you just do it right on top. Next, I'm going to take my bag, and I am just going to place my clay into the bag and tie off the ends. I like to press out any of the air and tie my ends so that my board is sitting on top to further help no air get inside. Then you're just going to write your name on a piece of tape and put it right on top. And this whole little bundle will go on the pink counter where your class period is located for the next day.